With the Super Pre-Release event coming up very, very soon, everybody is talking about how strong Eustass Kid, Captain Kid, the green deck is going to be at this event. He is very powerful, and even I have been on record saying that if you want to win, you should probably pick green. But in this video, I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to contradict myself and say, maybe green isn't the best deck that you should go for, and in fact, it should be Sir Crocodile. Now, before I get into that, let's talk about Kid. Let's talk about why people want to play him and what makes him so strong. So Kid has the ability to restand, right? His card reads that by resting 3 Dawn, you can discard 1 card from your hand and switch this leader to active, effectively meaning that he can swing twice. As you get to the mid to late game, especially the late game, and you have a whole bunch of Dawn in your arsenal, you can start loading up that Dawn to Eustass Kid, and if Kid starts swinging at faces with 10k plus power, and he can restand, yeah, that's not going to be something that people are going to be able to block against if they have no blockers. What other cards does he have in his kit? What makes this deck so good, and why are people raving about it in terms of the starter deck? You have consistent search with Jewelry Bonnie, who's going to be able to search for you every turn as long as she can stay alive and allow you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and add one to your hand. The more times you're able to use this effect, the more value you get. You have Basil Hawkins, who is a 5-drop, who once he gets on the board, he's going to be able to apply pressure and clear the board because he'll be able to restand himself in that sense as well. You have cards like Capone Gang Beiji, who's going to be a blocker, which is also going to be very important because if you are in a mirror match, you're going to want to have a blocker because we talked about Eustass Kid being able to attack twice, being able to mitigate one of those attacks are going to be very, very important. And on top of that, you get 4 copies of those. You also get the 4 copies of Jewelry Bonnie. So again, you have consistency there. Then of course you have this 7-drop Kid, not as deadly as the 8-drop Kid that's coming in this set later this year, but still very formidable because in this Super Pre-Release format where we only have these 4 decks, 7,000 power is very, very tanky. It's going to be something that's going to be very difficult to get over as a blocker. So we talked about all the good things about Eustass Kid, right? We talked about why this deck is so strong, why it's so good. But now I want to talk about why I think that if I actually just wanted to win the event straight up, and if I think that everybody's going for Kid, I'm actually going for Crocodile, it's because blue counters green. And if you guys played enough games, you guys will realize that the blue deck is actually really, really good against green because of the built-in counters. So let me talk about it a little bit. Crocodile has the ability to spin a card back to the opponent's hand at the cost of 4 Dawn if it has a cost of 5 or less. Why has a cost of 5 exactly? Basil Hawkins. Basil Hawkins doesn't actually come live until the next turn after it's played because it needs to swing, right? It needs to have a Dawn on it, you have to attack, and when you battle an opponent's character, then you can restand it. If you flip it back to the hand, it essentially got no value, and if they played again, they effectively had to spend 10 Dawn just to play a Basil Hawkins that still hasn't even done anything, right? So right off the bat, there's a counter there for your Basil Hawkins. Then if we take a look at his other effects and some of the other cards you have access to, Sables, his event, and by the way, you have 4 copies of this. You can use this if it's triggered from your life, if you take damage, or if it's in your hand because you're drawn into it, you can go ahead and spin a card of 7 or less, a cost of 7 or less. And what has a cost of exactly 7? The Eustass Captain Kid. And again, it's a blocker. So instead of having to attack into it, why don't you just spin it back up to your opponent's hand? Now you don't have to worry about that pesky blocker. And oh, by the way, it's a 7 cost, so if they want to drop him again, guess what? They only have 3 Dawn left, and then if they want to restand their Eustass Kid, oh well, it's only going to be a 5k swinging power, right? So it's going to be something that's easily blockable. So this alone will be able to handle your Eustass Captain Kid. And on top of that, Eustass Captain Kid is a 7-drop. Like I said, this is a 4-drop, so it's going to be a lot easier to play, but more importantly, you have 4 copies of Sables, and you only have 2 copies of the Captain Kid in this starter deck. Now, of course, you have things like Thrust Pad Cannon to deal with Capone Gang Beiji. Thrust Pad Cannon is going to allow you to return 1 character with a cost of 3 or less back to the opponent's hand, which is going to be really good if you want to get a blocker off the board. So there's that. But then also Jewelry Bonnie is very, very weak with no blockers on the board, with the 2 blockers being Eustass Kid as well as Capone Gang Beiji. She's going to be easily swung into after you use the effect because she only has a power of 1,000. So then you think about, okay, well, you could deal with all those cards. What about Captain Kid? The power of the Kid deck is once you get to that mid to late game, he can just swing into your face, right? Well, you have blockers. Now, Crocodile is the only deck that is going to have access, correct me if I'm wrong, to 2 blockers. You have access to Boa Hancock and you have access to Trafalgar Law. Boa Hancock being a 3 cost because she also has a 1k counter. Now, what's interesting in the mechanics of the game is the fact that The block step comes before the counter step. Shoutouts to DPP's channel. I will put a link in the description to the video as well. This is one of the matchups that I was taking a look at. You can actually go ahead and switch the attack to Boa Hancock as a blocker because of the block step. Then you go to the counter step, so you can go ahead and use your thrust pad cannon and spin your own Boa Hancock back to your own hand instead of using it at on your opponent's, because it says return to the owner's hand. You don't have to use it on your opponent. That essentially makes the attack fizzle out. Then you can go ahead and play your Boa Hancock again and be able to have another blocker on the next turn. So that is very, very powerful. And you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, like that's an extra 2, that's 3, like that's 5 Dawn. Is that worth it? Yes, that is 100% worth it, because being able to stop one of Kid's attacks is very important when the deck is centered around him attacking twice. Being able to cut that in half, allowing you to have an extra turn to survive, means that you have an extra turn to kill. Very, very strong. And to wrap it up, we have strong vanillas. We have Sentomaru, who's going to be a tutor for our Pacifistas, who's a 4-drop with 6k, as well as Weavile with 1 Dawn attach will also become 6k and is a 3-drop. These are going to be cards that are going to be difficult to deal with and that you're going to be using to swing into Kid's face. So all in all, I think Crocodile is probably the way to go. This is my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. What are you guys going to be playing? Are you guys going to be playing Captain Kid? Did this video change your mind and now you guys might be playing Crocodile? For me, if I was trying to win it all and I think that a lot of people are playing green, I'm going ahead and picking up Crocodile. That's what I would do, but I'm going to be playing Luffy. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment sections down below. And if you guys want to know what my overall plan is for the pre-release event, you guys can find the video right here. Peace.